first thing, there's 3 questions that I really am going to focus on this live stream that I want you to keep in mind and filter for. And we're going to talk about why behind them, how to use it, all of that. But the 3 questions are, what would the CEO version of me do today? What does my business need from me today? And then would this problem be different if I already felt blank? We'll talk about all of those, but what would the CEO version of me do today is the first one. So we'll dive into that. So the reason that that's such an important question, even though it seems so small or so kind of like, oh, what would the CEO version of me do today, right? It could be like a little eye rolly. But very often, especially as our business is growing, we are not approaching things from that perspective at all. We are not at all looking at it as what would the CEO version of me do today. We're looking at it almost as like, what does the busy worker be in my business version of me need to get done today? We operate so much from that, like, get it done, knock it out, to-do list mentality versus the what would the CEO version of me do today? And I think that, again, it's especially hard when like your business is growing actually, to really lock into that, because it's so easy to just get trapped in all of the like day-to-day minutia instead of making sure you're doing some of those big picture CEO things that move you forward. Right. So that is what keeps you from delegating. It keeps you from passing things off. It keeps you from actually focusing on the most important things. And it really gets you stuck in that like to-do list mentality of like, answer this email, update this thing versus like make this sale, like move this strategy forward. And it can be really, really slight, but important, because if you're operating as like the kind of like worker bee in your business every day, guess what? You're not operating as the CEO, and your business doesn't just need a worker bee, it needs a CEO to move forward, and it needs the CEO the most, really. And again, as you get busier and as your business grows, sometimes the fastest thing to give up is that. And so that's what I want to kind of bring this back to. So if you asked yourself, what would the CEO version of me do today? 1, would you know the answer? And 2, did it actually look like that? Right? Because I can ask myself that question, but then I have to compare it to like, do my days normally look like that? So let me just make up an example here, but let me try to use my day. So I had to do certain things today, right? Like I have calls, I have this live stream, I need to answer clients, all of those things. But the CEO version of me today also would figure out my plans for the week, figure out our strategy for something that we have coming up, make the time for that in my calendar, things like that. So if I just was like going about my day today, I wouldn't have done any of those things. I would have just gotten shit done, moved along. But if I ask myself through the lens of what would the CEO version of me do today, I know those 2 things need to get done, that like forward planning for what we have coming up and the making actual time to make that happen. So that's just a small example, but that question of what would the CEO version of me do today gets you looking at it in a different light, because the CEO version of me today would not be like, whatever, just making something up, but like fucking around with like updating something on my website, not that you would never do that. Like, obviously, sometimes you don't have someone to delegate that to yet, but it's making sure the CEO stuff gets done first. So does that make sense? Like, that has to happen before you get to all those little tasks. And what mostly happens for us is all the little tasks come first, and we're never getting to that big picture thinking, right? We're never getting to that thinking that is long-term, that actually moves the business forward. And then we can start to like really resent our business and lose that bigger vision of our why, that bigger vision of what we're working toward. It feels like we're just on that hamster wheel every day. And I feel like that's when people like get in that tendency to want to like change strategies or burn their business to the ground or whatever, because they're functioning as such like the worker bee instead of the CEO. Does that make sense to anyone? Also, I need to know, is this shirt itchy? I love your question, Michelle. It's really not itchy at all. I don't know if you can like tell the fabric, but it's kind of like, what's the word? What is the fabric? It is, it's polyester, so it's not super itchy. It's more like kind of silky, if that makes sense. And then there's like a silky shirt under it. So the answer is no. But it's also not tight. So maybe that's why too. Bless my 9 to 5, which has retaken over my time. So I don't have time to fuck around with my website anymore. Only CEO tasks are best. Yes, exactly. Like, I think that's it. Sometimes it just stretches on and on if we have the time, and then we spend all day being busy instead of making sure things make sense. So I love that, in a sense, for you, that your 9 to 5 has forced you into that, but it is so easy to fall out of that. I would sweat so hard in that, but it looks super cute on you. Thank you. That's so funny, Michelle. I definitely do sweat so hard in it, but I am used to that, I think, at this point, because Florida. So I pretty much sweat in anything I wear. So I think I'm not discerning anymore. Hey, Patricia. Hi. Michelle, I feel like you asked another question that I missed. Let me know. Okay, so that's the first question. What would the CEO version need to do today? The next question is, what does my business need from me today? I am obsessed with this question, and I ask myself this constantly, and I am such a stickler for my clients asking themselves this too, because where we get confused is between the difference of what do I need today versus what does my business need from me. So I'm going to rant about that for a minute. But I certainly believe we need to take care of ourselves in our business. We need to do things that feel good, all of that. But where it gets so messy and intertwined in the entrepreneur space is that we think it's the same thing as running our business. We think what I need today is the same as what my business needs, because they feel so intertwined. And while it can be cool that like we're building businesses based on our lives and all of those things, it gets so messy in a way that is not helpful when it feels like it's the same thing. Okay. So what Lacey needs today, to be specific, is like, I need to take a bubble bath later today. I really want one. I've been really tired today. My back hurts a little bit. Really need that. But what my business needs from me today is to show up from this live stream, to send an email. That's important, that I need to attend to answer my clients, to do that CEO planning that I was talking about, right? So, oh shoot, hold on, Michelle, I don't want to miss your question again. You mentioned something you were working on, and I got nosy and asked if something new was coming. Oh, you're the best. Is something new coming? Not really. Not in the sense of what you're thinking about, probably. Sorry. It's not very exciting, but no, it's just like a little side thing I'm working on. Also, while we're here, thanks for encouraging Julia to send me that boob. You asked, we delivered. What can I say? Shirley says the question was a game changer for me a couple weeks ago, but then I forgot to use it daily. Thank you for that reminder. Oh, so good. Yes, daily. So important. But what it also really helps with there is like, so with that example, like Lacey needs to take a bubble bath and whatever, my business needs me to do these other things. What feels so useful to me about that is that those don't have to compete. But if I just go, what do I need to do today? They immediately feel competitive almost. It's like, well, I feel like I need to take a bubble bath, and like maybe I want to rest a little bit, and maybe this and that. And then I can start almost getting resentful to my business, because it feels like, why is my business not like giving me these things? Or why is my business not built in a way that like gives me these things? And it can be just like this weird trap we fall into, instead of being like, well, of course I need to figure out what my business needs and do the things that move that forward. And then of course, taking care of myself so I can show up for the business is part of that, but they're not the same thing at all, right? Deepa says this mindset is what I need to work on. I am chief executive officer and chief billing generator. Those two profiles don't go together. Yes, 100%. We really have to separate those two things, 100%. And we have to feel like we can still get our needs met, but not to feel like the business's job is to meet all of them. I think that's where it can get really tricky. And that's where, again, all of this gets so intertwined that we forget the difference. Where like, if I was CEO of a big company, I would know that I needed to take care of myself and like meet my own needs so that I could go show up at work. I wouldn't necessarily be looking to my work to meet my needs. But so often in business, we do that. And then we build up these layers of resentment. And then we also get inconsistent because of it. And when really it's like, your business might provide you the time and resources to meet your needs, but it's not going to specifically give you that every day. It needs you to come to it, having met most of those so that you can show up in it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense there, but like, though the business can provide things that help you meet your needs more, every day the business isn't going to be the thing meeting all of your needs. And when we think that is where it gets super fucked, right? How do you handle imbalanced CEO and coaching calls every day? How do I handle imbalanced CEO and coaching calls every day? I honestly, Patricia, I think it's with this question, like, what does my business need from me today? Like, I know it needs me to show up for those coaching calls, right? What does the CEO version of me need to do today? I know it needs CEO time. So finding, the spot for both of those. And it doesn't mean every day I find all this CEO time and all this coaching time. Some days are going to be heavier on one versus the other, but the questions help me filter that through. So it's not like, oh, I'm just a coach today. It's like, I am a coach and CEO every day. And so I might be like, on 5 hours of coach and 1 hour of CEO, or I might be on, 4 hours of CEO and 2 hours of coach. Like, it depends. Like, today was vastly more coach than CEO. Tomorrow I have time for way more CEO than coach. So that varies every day, but it's still part of it, or I'm still looking at it through that lens. Or, sometimes the answer of what would the CEO version of me do today might be like, get my shit done so that I have that time tomorrow to lean into CEO stuff. So like, it's okay if it doesn't look perfect every day, or if sometimes the, best version of you that day gets the things you have to get done so you can have that CEO time tomorrow. It's just the idea of not putting it off forever and still focusing on that. But yeah, like, what the CEO version of me does versus like what I need to move the business forward are different, right? Shell says, how can I tell if something is a CEO task versus my brain being cute and taking me down the busy task rabbit hole? How can I tell if something is a CEO task versus my brain being cute and taking me down the Got it. Michelle, like, what I would say there is like, the rabbit hole of like, this task is almost never the CEO thing. Like, if you actually think of a CEO in a company, like, they're rarely like doing the tasks. They're more setting the vision. So again, it doesn't mean you don't need both, which is why that second question of what does my business need from me today is so relevant. But 9 times out of 10, if it's like a very task oriented kind of thing, it probably isn't a CEO task. Yeah, like, even me coaching my clients, I don't really see that as a CEO task, or me answering in Basecamp. That's not really a CEO task. Like, CEO task would be more like delegating to the team, like thinking through next steps, big vision, that kind of stuff. So I hope that makes sense. Like, it's not that it's bad to do some of those tasks. It's just like, they're not typically more of the like CEO task if it's super like, boom, 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 check a bunch of shit off a list. So that's why we ask ourselves, like, what would the CEO version of me do today? And then like, how do I get time in for that? And then what does the business need? And again, those are probably going to be different things. And then what do I need? Right. Awesome. Patricia said, yes, I feel like I'm always on CEO role. Yeah. So Patricia, that's really helpful, where it's like, you might be asking that of yourself, like, what does the CEO version of me do today? But then what you might have to lean into more is like, what does my business need from me today? Which again, like we're talking about with Michelle, might be really different. Like, a lit up life today needed me to show up on live stream coaching calls, answer my client, and the CEO version of me needed something different. So I think just like being able to separate those out and knowing those two helps you to feel not so stuck in one. Because I do think that's true. Some of us get really stuck in visionary and some of us get really, really stuck in like task rabbit, like Michelle was saying. And usually we kind of gravitate toward getting stuck in one or the other, which is why those questions together are really helpful, because it almost like pulls up your awareness of like, oh, I have to be both. And listen, that's the fucking hard part of running your own business, is that you kind of have to have all these roles. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're the CEO, you're the coach, you're the, you know, whatever, like I'm the dog walker too, you know, all those things. When I worked as a director in a nonprofit, like I had way more of a visionary role and less of that like task stuff. But yeah, in your own business, you're gonna balance both. But if you can keep eyes on both and keep bringing that awareness to it, it gets easier. Hi, Nashaba. Thank you for being here. Hi, Alicia. What does my business need from me? I tend to do things that are needed for my current clients in the business operations, like invoicing clients, but it feels less clear on how to define what my business needs that day to grow. Maybe it's just creating a regular practice. Like I'll reach out to reconnect with 2 colleagues a week, since my clients have always come from referrals. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, Alicia, that's perfectly said. Like if you're, you know, what did you say? You're not a coach. Okay. Yeah. If your referral network is what's always working for you, then yeah, like what your business might need from you that day is making sure you're cultivating new leads, making sure you're building on relationships. And invoicing clients can be part of it too, right? Like your business might need you to send out invoices that day. That can be totally okay. But like, yeah, it's thinking about it through the lens of what does my business need to move forward? And I think what you just hit on is really important. Like if it feels unclear what your business needs to grow daily, that would be really helpful to go back to. Like for me, I feel like to grow daily, my business needs consistent content, consistent relationship building, things like that. So it's easy for me to answer that. So yours might be the same. It might be like consistent relationship building, consistent outreach to my referral network, that kind of thing. But I would really lock in on like knowing what you believe moves the business forward every day, because that makes it easier to answer that question. Okay, cool. Michelle says that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, amazing. So, all right, next question. Well, let's actually, I have more to say. So talking about what does my business need from me, so helpful. But what we don't want to leave out there, and what I want to be like a caveat here, is you also need to know what you need from you that day too. Those do not have to be separate things. Or they are separate things, but they don't have to be separate in terms of because you're meeting your business's needs, you can't meet yours, or vice versa. It's just not seeing it through the lens of the business. Something that I think about with this a lot is there's a person I really like to follow. Her name is Esther Perel, and she talks, she's a psychologist, and she's a marriage and family therapist. And one of the things she talks about a lot is how like your relationship is not going to meet all of your needs, and putting that much pressure on it is what makes a lot of relationships fail. Right. So it's like, if you expect your partner to like, you know, be meeting every single need you have, like they fulfill you and they listen to you, but they also, you know, create a lot of excitement for you. And, you know, you have great sex, but you also have, you know, like best friendship, and you also have fulfillment and all of these 5 ways. And like you might have many of those things, but they're probably not going to meet all of those things. And she talks a lot about how that is so detrimental to relationships. And so the reason I think these questions are so important, because I find that we do the same as entrepreneurs, where we expect our business to meet all of our personal needs too. Like it needs to make me money and fulfill me and make me feel enough and make me motivated every day and feel like self-care and make me feel rested, but also energized and excited, but also peaceful and like, holy fucking fuck. Right. And so feeling into like, what does the business need me to do today? And then like, what do I need to do to feel good today? And not making those the same thing is so important, because when you can treat your business like a business, it will often fulfill a lot of your needs. Just like when you don't have huge expectations on your relationship, it often does meet a lot of those things, right? But when we put all this pressure on it to meet all of our needs, we're going to be pretty perpetually unhappy. And that's true in the relationship and the business, right? Alicia loves Esther, and where do we begin? Yes, Alicia, I was literally just talking about that podcast today. It is literally is so inspired from that. And I love her podcast. And you said consistent relationship building definitely feels like the sweet spot. Thank you. Yes, perfect. So then every day it's like, okay, my business needs me to like build a relationship today. What does that look like? Cool. So that's why we have to ask, two versions of this question. Know what your business needs from you versus filling into like what do I need from the business? More like, what do I need to take care of myself? An example I use of this sometimes, which is a little bit different, but it's relevant here, is this idea of like, sometimes we like have a personal financial need and then we expect the business to perform for that, right? So it's like, I want to buy a new car. So then as an entrepreneur, sometimes what I'll do is be like, okay, the business needs to make X amount of money so I can buy this new car. Like, let's go. And we put all this pressure on the business, where then we're not thinking about like, what does the business need to grow? We're like, the business needs to perform to get me this thing, right? And it just makes no sense. And it doesn't really serve us. It actually just puts a ton more pressure on it and takes us out of our CEO role. Where like, if you were the CEO at a big company and you wanted to buy a car, you wouldn't like go into the office that day and be like, all right, I need a new car. So like, what are we selling today? What are you guys making happen? Da, da, da. Like, it would never be like that, right? Like, you would continue to be the CEO of that business and see how it could grow. And then when you got the bonus from that growth, you would go buy the car, right? So we have to start treating our business like that in different ways. That's just an example of it from a monetary perspective. But whatever else it was, like, say I was tired and needed, downtime today, I wouldn't, again, go into being the CEO of a big company and be like, I'm tired and need downtime today. I'm taking a bubble bath. Nobody fuck with me. And if you need something from me today, like, all bets are off. It's terrible. I would just like figure out what I was going to care for myself, right? Maybe I would take a little bit of the afternoon off, or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would like plan to do it after work that day, or maybe I would come in a little bit late because I needed that time, or maybe I would just figure out how to get that need met at lunch, whatever it is. But you see how those things are different. Like, what my role as CEO would need from me that day would be vastly different than what I needed to take care of that need. What my role as CEO would need from me would be vastly different than like what I thought I needed to like make the sale on to get the car. Does that make sense? So the more we can separate those out, the better relationship you have on both regards, meaning the better relationship you have with your business, but the better relationship you have to meeting your needs, instead of seeing the business as the only vehicle to meet your needs. The reason it's easier when you're the CEO of a company that's not yours is because you don't look at it through that lens so much, right? So I think that's just really, really helpful to see here, and really puts you in a different mindset and mentality, and actually makes both things feel a lot better, i.e. meeting your own needs and doing what the business needs from you. So then that leads me to the last question, which is also just like kind of a way to separate this, which is another question. Would this problem be different if I felt blank? So if you've followed me for any length of time, you know this is a question I talk about a lot, but we're going to talk about it again because it's so relevant to these. So would this problem be different if I felt blank? Blank is whatever your thing typically is, right? So if you typically know your underlying thing is to feel not enough, then it's like, would this problem be different if I felt enough? Mine is around control. So would this problem be different if I felt more safe and in control? The reason I put this in these are questions you need to ask yourself all the time is because of the exact thing that we were just talking about. When we're so personally connected to and invested in the business, when we literally are the business, it can feel so intertwined that all of our shit starts to run the business, right? So if I constantly feel not enough, I'm running the business from that place and I'm making every decision through that lens. And it's, again, not getting to step into my CEO shoes because I'm bringing like all of my shit to it. So for example, like, let's say, here's just an example. I literally just made this up, so bear with me. I don't know if this will be great or not. Say you saw something where someone was talking about how they blew up on Clubhouse. Okay. And you're like, oh my God, they completely blew up on Clubhouse. Like they have all these followers over there now. I have to get on Clubhouse. Like I absolutely have to. I have to do this thing. Everyone needs me to be on Clubhouse. Like I'm falling behind because I'm not. Right? You're not really making that decision from a CEO place. You're making that decision because all of your enoughness shit just got activated, right? So that's why you put it through the lens of, would this be different if I felt enough? So like if I already felt like I was doing enough and at a good enough spot in my business and what all of these things, would the CEO of this business decide that Clubhouse was a good idea or not? Right? Do you see how that neutralizes it a little bit? When I feel super triggered and not enough, I'm like, we have to do Clubhouse. We have to. We're so behind, blah, blah, blah. When I'm like, okay, would this be different if I felt enough? If I felt completely enough, would it even make sense for our business to be on Clubhouse? How would that work? Do I have time and space for that? Does that actually get us the outcome we want? Is that aligned to the goals we're working toward right now? Like, I would just be looking at it through an entirely different and way more neutral lens if I filtered through that question. And it's so important to stop and filter through that question, because if not, most of us are making business decisions from our own like trigger point or wound, right? So, an example for me when I have like the, control kind of safety stuff is like, let's use that, same example. Let's say I was like seeing somebody posting about Clubhouse, and what I don't like about it is that I can't really control the process around that or whatever. So like, I don't want to do Clubhouse because I don't feel like I'm like as in control of the room and as in control of the process, and I can't systematize all that, and it just feels like more of like a wild card. Like we're definitely not doing Clubhouse. Right? Do you see how it could be like, sorry, that's my dog. Do you see how that could be like the exact opposite thing? She distracted me, and also, of course, I don't have headphones, and so you guys all got to hear that. But like I could make that decision from the opposite place and be like, no, we're not getting on Clubhouse. No, 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 no. But if I stop and was like, would this be different if I felt more in control of like that environment and systematizing that and whatever? Okay, cool. Now as the CEO, I get to be like, what actually makes sense for our business? What actually makes sense in terms of like time and energy capacity and all of these things? And then I might decide yes or no, but I would be deciding it as the CEO versus deciding it as Lacey, who is in a trigger moment. And that is so important because our own business is going to bring up a ton of our own shit. But if we can be a better filter for our own stuff, we will be more likely to make a CEO decision, and we will also see what our stuff is more so we can actually address it personally versus making it the business problem. So if I see over and over again that enoughness is constantly present and constantly a thing, well, then I might need to go personally address it. I need it to not run my business, right? I need to run my business, and then separately, I need to address that. Again, just like if you were the CEO of a big company, same thing would be true, right? Like you couldn't be in every meeting being like, well, I don't feel enough compared to the other CEOs, so our company needs to do this. Fuck no, right? You know what I mean? Or like, I don't feel as in control as like whatever in this new market, so let's not go into that market. No, you can't do that, right? It has to be through that lens of business decision. So these just help you create more neutrality around the decisions and make more of that high level, where do we want to go, what makes sense for us kind of decisions, instead of that trap that we fall into. Patricia said, yes, that was the same question I had to ask about Instagram Reels. 100%. Absolutely. We have to be asking these questions about every like kind of new endeavor we're diving into. I think, Instagram Reels is a perfect example where like you can decide no to that because of a number of reasons, right? Or you can decide yes to that because of a number of reasons, but you have to check what the intent is behind that reason to make it make sense. So like if the reason I'm not doing it is because, or the reason I'm doing it is because I already don't feel like I'm doing enough marketing and I have to do more, probably not a good thing. If I'm doing it because one of my clients was literally saying this to me, she said that she feels most excited, most ease, most fun around reels right now. Okay, so yeah, let's double down on that strategy because it's what's creating the most ease in your business. And we want to double down on ease because big picture wise, as the CEO, she wants to create a lot more ease in her business. So it aligns to her visions, to her focus, all of that kind of stuff, which is very different than like she's doing it because she feels like shit and doesn't feel enough and actually hates doing them, but is going to do it because she doesn't feel enough. And then it's like, but you're trying to create more ease and you're trying to align to that. How does that match up? It doesn't. Do you see what I mean there? So that last question is one of the most important filters you could possibly have in your business when you're asking yourself questions and deciding things. And it's ironically, it's such a personal question, but what it helps you do is separate out the personal so you can show up as the CEO. And again, that's what's so hard about the businesses we're building is we just all have multiple roles. Like you're kind of like the talent as much as you're the CEO, as much as you're the chief marketing officer, all of the things. And so having these filters to separate things out through is so fucking important, or it all just gets too messy and entangled. And it feels like we're running in quicksand in our business sometimes because of that, right? So let me say them one more time. So what would the CEO version of me do today? What does my business need today? / what do I need today? And then would this problem be different if I already felt blank? So insert whatever your thing is into blank enough. Like I could trust myself, like in control. I could go on and on, but like you get it, whatever that trend is that kind of always shows up for you. Would this be different if I felt that? When you can ask these every day or most days, you will really start to see that separation happen in your business. When you don't ask these, your brain is almost always reliably going to mesh them all together. And that's when we can feel very confused about how to be a CEO in our business, how to get tasks done in our business, how to actually take care of ourselves in our business. And it feels so intertwined and so messy that it's almost like impossible to pull apart without certain filters to look at it through. And so, which leads me to when you are showing up as a CEO and looking at it through these filters and bringing more of that neutrality and bringing more of that CEO presence, you're able to make strategic decisions versus reactive decisions. And reactive decisions are, I'm feeling a thing that I want to not be feeling, and I'm going to have a big reaction to it, right? And decide based on that. And we just know that that's not ever going to be the way to most successfully run our companies, right? It's never going to be how we get more of what we want. It's to kind of constantly be on this reactivity train of how I'm feeling that day, right? Again, think about a CEO of a big company. If they were just going based on like if they were having a good day that day or a bad day that day or what they needed or how they felt, like it would be rough. Again, it doesn't mean we don't attend to our feelings or we don't make them important or we don't give them space and time, but that's why we ask ourselves, what do I need today? And see that as vastly different and separate from our business, right? And again, it doesn't mean the business doesn't give me things to meet those needs, just like it would if I was CEO of a big company. The business would give me, the finances and the opportunity to meet those needs or to take time off if I need it or to pay for that, therapy I want to go to or whatever. But it's not the same thing. It's not so messy and intertwined. So these are so important because it helps you pull these things apart and see them for what they are. And it really like depersonalizes some of the business. And I think as much as it's so valuable that we all get to run this business that feels like it's from our heart and like so authentic to us and really personal, it can also really, really stunt our growth if we don't see that as a separate thing to a certain extent. And not only stunt our growth, but I think just make it really, really, really emotional to run a business and to show up, because it feels so intense all the time, versus these questions can make it feel a little less intense. Like, what does my business need versus what do I need? Okay, that just feels less intense because those feel separate. They don't feel in competition, whatever. Would this problem be different if I felt X? Again, it just takes the charge down a little, versus like when I'm in the middle of that trigger of like, oh my God, we have to be on Clubhouse. Da, 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 da. How am I going to make time for this? Oh my God. Like, and then I just start on this like reactive escalation track, right? Versus like coming back to like, would this be different if this? What does that look like? How do I process it? So I hope that is helpful. I think that getting to that more neutral place where we can see what we need, but also what our business needs, and see those as vitally important yet separate things, is one of the best places to be in business. It feels so good. It feels so grounding, and it feels just more peaceful, I think. Like, I don't even know how else to say that, but it's like you don't feel so on the roller coaster. You feel like, like it's not like this, it's like this is kind of how it is, right? And so I think it's just really important to keep coming back to these. It's so easy to navigate away from that, or to forget how important creating that separation is. But honestly, this is one of the things I see make the biggest difference in my clients who are able to scale and scale quickly, is there just simply is CEO mindset and separation there. It's so hard to scale quickly when all of it is so intertwined and intense, and it's really hard to make good decisions from that place. So as much as this feels like, oh, that would be a useful exercise, it is like a very, very strategic and practical exercise too. And it is one of the things that can help you scale the fastest, truthfully. So I hope this helped. Oh, you're so welcome, Patricia. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. So I hope this helped. If you have questions on this, feel free to let me know. I'll say the questions one more time. What would the CEO version of me do today? What does my business need today? / what do I need today? And would this problem be different if I already felt X? I promise you, if you start asking these questions, even a couple times a week, everything will feel really, really different. And it will feel much clearer and more peaceful. I think this is my first live I'm catching. I feel like a winner, and the topic is great. Thank you. You're so, so welcome. Thank you for being here. I so appreciate you guys. I really, really do. If you're watching the replay, if you're here with me live, I really can't tell you how much it means to me that you put this time in, that you want to learn from me, that you want to be part of this. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. Really, really means so much to me. So appreciate you guys. Let me know if you have questions, and I hope you all have a beautiful week. Bye, guys.